So my name is Barbara McAdam, and I'm an urban horticulture program specialist at IFAS Extension in Miami-Dade County. And we are all part of the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. And we work with Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces. We're funded by several departments in Miami-Dade County, mainly Water and Sewer Department, because creating a Florida-friendly landscape helps save our water and protect the quality of our water. And I just want to note that Florida-friendly landscaping has 9 principles, and it starts with right plant, right place. So these spooky, spiky, smelly, ouchy, itchy plants, you might find some correlation with right plant, right place when we're looking at these. So first of all, just a little, we're going to have fun, but I do want to mention that there are plants out there that are deadly, and you don't want to mess around with anything about them. This will hopefully be our last really serious moment, but we have that information online. You'd be surprised how many things can make you ill or make you itch. Um, Not too many of them will kill you outright unless you really purposely kind of look at that. So we have Gardening Solutions, IFAS Extension Gardening Solutions. That is a go-to website for lots of things, but always come back and talk to us. So speaking of deadly plants, there's some of them. And, some of them might be surprising, like the cashew before the nut is drained of all the toxins, it's going to be toxic. And you know, Dieffenbachia, flowering tobacco, angel's trumpet. We're going to cover some of these today. So beautiful, fragrant, and deadly would be the angel's trumpets. And these are they're called angel's trumpets because supposedly you would hear the sound of the angel's trumpets right before you passed out, and hopefully we could get you to the emergency room. But they are so fragrant. They're pollinated by moths, and they're not native, but they don't seem to just grow out of control here. So I think they would be friendly. And this is a double flowered petaled cultivar. Again, very fragrant, and they're fragrant at night. So if you get the chance under a full moon to sit out in the moonlight of your garden, you might be able to visit the moths. And some of those moths are so big, they can be mistaken for hummingbirds. This one I've had growing in my yard. It's also called Hell's Bells. Kind of scary. There's also a lot of information on Wikipedia, and what I've done throughout everywhere is I have hyperlinked all of the sources that I used. So it's tropane alkaloids, and it tells you exactly what it is. It's been used for centuries as a poison, so it's well known. I don't want to spread poisonous information around, so that nobody, please make your own concoctions. But you might not realize that I watched the Hercule Poirot series on PBS. My favorite Agatha Christie movie is Murder on the Orient Express, and she had a vast knowledge of poisonous plants. First of all, she gardened and she grew them in her youth. And also, she was a dispenser at University College in London. She worked during World War One, so she knew what was poisonous, but she also knew how to use it and what dosage. So some things that might be poisonous could, in the right dosage, end up as cure. But I want to caution everybody, please do not play with these things. This one's interesting. We call this sometimes dumb cane, Dieffenbachia. It's been used as an indoor house plant since the Victorian era. And we know that, if your pets chew on this or if kids chew on it, it's caustic, but it can also be so caustic that the inside of your mouth might swell up and you can't speak. Hence, it's called the dumb cane. But there are many beautiful cultivars of this. If you went to the rare plant show at the Fruit and Spice Park recently, you would have seen some of these beauties. So make sure you can use them safely. Just don't, if you're going to cut the leaves, I would wear gloves. Don't get any of the sap in your eyes or on your skin. So this explains a little more about what are those characteristics. And this, oh, I can't see the top. The crystal halides, they're found in a number of plants. Virginia creeper, I've gotten really bad itchies from that. Even in spinach, philodendrons, and also vanilla, the leaves. If you handle the vanilla orchid, you can sometimes get that reaction. So there's one here that we know happened. It's actually a story that was repeated from the fruit and spice part, is Monstera deliciosus, which is a philodendron, and it has these huge fruits on it. First of all, it has an absolutely gorgeous flower. It's like a calla lily, like this big, white, and super fragrant. And it has to be pollinated on all of these little segments here. It's actually formed the fruit on the inside. But this gradually ripens from the end, the base, up to the tip. It slowly ripens. So you cannot eat any of these sections that are not ripe yet. And they should give easily. They should start to turn yellowish in color. If you want to eat more of it, grow more of this and harvest more of these fruits to kind of pick from each one. There was actually a lady and her son who just bit into one of these thinking that, oh, that's how you eat it. So always do the research. Be careful. And if I didn't say it already, it's sort of like half the plants out there used in the right way will cure you, and the other half might really, really put a whopper on you, or it might be lilies up for you. So irritating plants. I seem to run into these a lot of times, and unfortunately, quite a few of them are native. So poison ivy, we've got this great publication, identification of poison ivy, poison oak, sumac, and poisonwood. And I think I've run into all of them. I've never gotten in contact with poisonwood. I have heard so many scary stories about how unpleasant that can be with the skin rash. And kind of like as I've gotten older, I seem to be more susceptible to these things. And you even want to, if you come into contact with these, it can be oily, and you might just want to dispose of those clothes. I'm not sure if they're going to come out in the wash. So be aware of what they look like. I'm a tree hugger, so just be careful what tree you wrap your arms around. And when you're getting ready to pull weeds, that's why we always talk about wearing gloves and long sleeves. And for me, I'm always complaining, oh my goodness, it's so hot. And maybe safety glasses, because sometimes as you're breaking these things off, some of the juices might squirt. We even have had that problem when picking mangoes, because some of them actually will break and the water or the juice on the interior will spurt out. So just a word of caution. This one has gotten me big time. Devil beans. So this was once planted as a cover crop to just add nitrogen to the soils. And there's actually some medicinal properties in the beans, but it's just really, really very itchy on contact with any part of the seed pod, which has hairs on it. You can see how hairy it is there. And also the area below the flower, the calyx area, and even getting around the vine now, for me, the hair raises up on the back of my neck. I had an incident with this, and I ended up going home and taking a shower, nothing to do about it. You might take maybe some masking tape and to try to pull um, those little hairs off. But taking Benadryl does not decrease the effects this has. But I took a shower and I chugged Benadryl and I fell asleep until this worn off. So what happens is most people scratch vigorously and uncontrollably, and they call it in Mozambique, they go mad, or they are known as devil beans in Nigeria. They're also known to be the source of gypsy itching powder. So if you see these pretty purple flowers, and you see these ripe seed pods and you go, that's pretty. I want to grow some. Think again. Be careful. So spiky. Well, this is surprising. Some of the plants we love to eat, like dragon fruit, that grows on a cactus. Here you go. There's the flowers. And they bloom at night. They're gorgeous. It's fun to stay up and watch these open up in the evening. But when you're trying to plant these, you'll notice they have the spikes along there. The fruit itself doesn't have any spikes or anything on it, even though it looks like it could be. Best way to eat them is just cut them in half. And I kind of like mine chilled a little, and the red ones are the best. So another interesting thing is I have this opuntia or cactus in my yard. These fruits are delicious, but they have much smaller hairs, tiny hairs. You have to peel these very carefully. It's not something I would recommend trying to eat out of hand. Just wear your gloves and peel off the outer skin. They are full of seeds, but they're totally delicious. You can make a nice jelly out of these if you want to. And I love trying to eat this variety of opuntia, but you need to just like maybe get the carrot peeler to scrape off some of the hairs. Fortunately, this one doesn't have as many needles or prickly hairs on it. And I keep looking for good recipes. I haven't made this to my satisfaction yet. It's a staple of several cultures. They eat this, and if you cook it right, it's going to taste like green beans, and it's going to be as nutritious as well. One plant I got from the raffle table at Native Plant Society was a native cactus, the barbed wire cactus. And I'm like, wow, I love cactus and succulents. I love every kind of plant, all the way cactus, succulents to aquatic. So there isn't a plant that I don't like unless it's just the wrong plant in the wrong place. So I got this. It grew pretty big. Those spikes are about 1.75 inches, and no matter how you try to handle it, they're going to get you somehow. And one got into my index finger, and because they're light gray, I had a very hard time finding that spike. It just like kept breaking off. It was in there a good 1/4 inch. So I kind of decided that I wasn't going to grow this one anymore, even though it attracts bats and moths, pollinators at night. So I just couldn't figure out a place to put it where nobody would ever have to run into it or touch it or work with it. It could be a good security measure along your fence line. So here's another spiky one. But, the product that it makes could also help dull the pain. This is the agave, primarily grown in Mexico, and it's pollinated by another scary creature we might associate with Halloween. It's the Mexican long-nosed bat, and it's one of the primary pollinators of the flowers for this plant. But what they do is they actually dig it up and they cut the leaves off and they roast this part. It's pretty cool how they make tequila. And of course, I'm batty for bats. So please check out Conservation International and learn more about this Mexican long-nosed bats. There's a lot of foods that we can thank the bats for bringing to our table. So this one's indeed spooky. And what's kind of really spooky about it is it's called a bat flower. I guess you can kind of see a bat shape there, but no one really knows how this is pollinated. This plant came to us as a donation. We're really grateful to have it. It's an unusual plant. I think this is the kind of plant you could, if you're someone is not a plant person, you could spark their interest in plants. So we're always looking for a way to bring you in. And this one is just gorgeous. Now, it's got long, long components on it. So what role do these parts play? And these are some of the critters that we've seen. They have been noted, not us, have been studied, and these have been seen to be all over this plant. So if we looked at the components, stingless bees, and oh, this is where I was going to get. We'd like to key out all of the parts and label them. Dalton would be the perfect part because these are like the petals of the flower. These are the flowers. These are anthers, or they look like it, but they're actually part of the flower structure. When the flower opens, the anthers and the pistil are still on the interior of the flower. So something may crawl up this, which would seem that it might be an ant pollinator. And it's been said to also emit kind of a little foul odor. But I stuck my nose right up to it. I watched it flower. This is from our garden. It flowered again this year. It had 3 beautiful flowers on it. And I never could really smell anything. I checked it first thing in the morning and also before we left for the day, because a lot of things are pollinated at night, and that's when their aromas can be stronger. Also checked it in the middle of the day, but didn't find anything. So that's still an ongoing mystery, but it's a very cool looking, unusual plant. No, I would say no danger of it overrunning the environment and becoming invasive here in South Florida. It needs a specific habitat, and it would just die off if we didn't keep watering it during the dry season. So this one, you guys all have probably heard of Mr. Stinky over at Fairchild Tropical Gardens. These are just photos I decided to show you. There's so many different colorations from purple to reds on this plant. And this is the largest flower that comes straight out of the ground. It's not on a branch. There's no other structure. Just boom, this big flower starts coming up. And here they've cut away a section so that you see the inside of this this structure. And if you want to know more about what they call that, you can just look into the scientific name of the plant. I'm not going to say anything more about that because I'm not trying to be Roger Hammer today. But inside here, you'll see many, many flowers. And so this has to get pollinated over and over and over again in order to form seeds in this whole tall structure. So all of those little mini flowers, I think the pattern there, how they're connected and the structure of it, just fascinating to look at. And it smells, stinky is the word that comes to mind because it smells. And it attracts carrion beetles and different flies from a long range, probably from all over the garden. I can remember seeing this in the past, and at Fairchild, and try not to breathe in too deeply. Letting Danielle in. So this one, Veronica gave me another name for this one. I think I've called this the voodoo plant. And it could be a little stinky too. It's in that same aroid family that grows these kind of features. And it this plant will just suddenly appear and it'll start to have the flower even before it grows the leaves. And it grows, it dies off, then it comes back again, hence the zombie plant. You can't kill it. But there's another name for it. It's kind of interesting looking. It's also known as giraffe's knees. And just for fun, there's the knee itself, upper leg, lower leg. I thought we'd look at some actual giraffe knees. Okay, I can see it. Maybe even the pattern on it, although that's more zebra pattern. But take a look at this if you want the PDF, we'll be happy to send it to you. Award-winning filmmaker and photographer. How they got those giraffes to pose for that. Pretty interesting. This also makes an interesting flower you can pop into a vase and some water, and it will last for weeks. I don't know if it'll smell too good though. So this is positively ghostly. And if you stop and take a look, you can see a ghost-like face, eyes, sort of a hood, maybe a nose here just kind of staring at you. And what is unusual about this is for the longest time, they weren't sure how this was pollinated because it has a very, very long reach to get down all this different way. It's probably close to 24 inches. If you want to know more about this, this is an award-winning scientific movie by three incredible researchers that have done a lot of different things and involved in a lot of different research in different university and National Geographic photography. Chasing Ghost, biographic. It's about 15-minute immersion into where this giant clump of the ghost orchid grows, and I want to go see it. When it's ready to bloom, it blooms in the summer. I want to make that visit next year. So if you guys want to know more about it, you can have a look. This was over collected because of how beautiful it was, but it's just very, very difficult to keep it alive, and it's protected and it's endangered. So please do not try to collect this. Let it grow. It's an incredible. I haven't seen one live, but I'm looking forward to the photography. And it's very difficult to photograph white flowers, but you see just some excellent. If it looks this good in a photograph, imagine what it looks like in real life. So deadly or tasty? Ackee. And I've eaten ackee in Jamaica, and I love it. Although most people say that ackee tastes like scrambled eggs, and you usually eat ackee and scrambled eggs, but it's just a different flavor that you add to the eggs. But when the fruit is closed like this, you never ever ever pry it open to pull out these like yellow pieces, almost look like a half pecan. This black right here is what contains the toxin, and they call it Jamaican vomiting sickness, also known as toxic hypoglycemic syndrome, acute acne fruit intoxication. So if you did accidentally, you'd want to go to the emergency room and let them know that you bit into this fruit and you bit into that black. And this fruit has to open on its own. That way it's pulled all the toxins out and it's in the seeds. So the areoles, it'll take all of that and pull it into it, and they'll break off loose. So then it's safe to clean the meat of the fruit inside. And if this were to fall to the ground, it would fall as a whole fruit, and that seed would start to grow, pulling the energy out of this sort of soft meat in the fruit. Enough about how it does that. If you do ever get a chance to take a Jamaican vacation, try it. Because the Jamaicans do know how to prepare this safely. They've been eating it for a long, long time. So there you go, seed pod, the seed. There's it broken down, the aerials. These are not safe to eat until it pops open and the seed is ready to just fall off. So toxic beauties, and shout out to Frost Museum, because we're trying to work with them to create more of a habitat on the upper deck for some select butterfly species. We'd like to try to mimic a coastal habitat up there, but no funds this year. We can still come and do the education. But one of the butterflies that's toxic is toxic because its caterpillars feed on a plant that is toxic. And Atalas were a butterfly that were once thought to be extinct. We've got publications on this. We have blogs on this. And it was rediscovered on Key Biscayne by Roger Hammer, who was chief naturalist for Miami-Dade County at the time. And he observed it feeding on the coontie, which was known, but it was the native coontie. And a lot of people got together and started planting the coontie. A coontie clump can get quite large. And if you want to try to grow this for the Atala butterfly, then you want at least a dozen of this, and you want to try to mimic fire, like maybe trim the older leaves off so it gets fresh leaves. But the whole plant contains a toxin, which to humans can create liver failure. But to the Atala butterfly, it makes them mostly unpalatable, maybe deadly, and that little red mark on the abdomen, that's a warning sign to anything that would eat the caterpillars. And look at the markings on the caterpillar. I mean, red and yellow, does that shout out danger to you guys? So beware. Atalas are just beautiful to watch flitting around because they have an iridescent shine to them when they're in the light. We have a big patch of coontie here, and we've been seeming to be getting Atalas regularly. Love it. So despite the fact that it's toxic, it is subject to some piercing, sucking insects that have no problem. So we have information on how to control these least toxic way to the coontie plant and for other plants in your garden. So let's go to, this is from a movie. Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know if you guys remember this. It's an older movie, and that's the monster in Little Shop of Horrors. I'm mean and green, pretty scary. It's interesting to look at this and go, what plant did they get the ideas from to create this plant? And by the way, this you can order online. So this is for people who kill their office plants. How about a fake plant, or not the real plant, because it could kill you, because supposedly in that movie the plant just grew and kept multiplying, and you could see these were each ready to break off and populate the whole world. So it was a little fun, scary, spooky plants in the movies. This one is one of my favorites though, the dramatic. And I don't know if you guys remember when this is Tom Cruise in Minority Report. True story. I was with my family, my two sons, my husband, and we ordered this movie up. We were in Groton, Massachusetts. We had just eaten dinner at Mystic Seaport Pizza, Mystic Pizza, reference to another movie. And we ordered this movie up, and everybody fell asleep except for me. And I watched this movie through the scary parts all by myself. And one of the parts that is always, always, always being a plant person that stuck with me was when Tom Cruise jumps over the fence and gets attacked by these plants that suddenly become like snakes. Dalton, make a face. Just kidding. Um, so it squirts something in his eyes, and then he has to trust the lady who is one of the people behind the precogs. She's, she's a gardener after Agatha Christie's own heart. Um, and she's got all of these things that are moving around as she moves her hands. All kinds of interesting things in that garden. I would just love to slow it down. There's some things we know in there. These are carnivorous plants. Some of them, any of us that love plants or in botany or horticulture could tell you, more than half of them at a glance. But I found this was actually online. A person is out there who loves this part just as much as I do. And it's called a growing obsession. I think that's apropos. So she features a little blog on the Greenhouse in Minority Report. Great kind of scary movie. I've seen it too many times. It doesn't surprise me anymore. But if you've never watched it, don't watch it alone. So another reference to drama and also back to history. Did this fruit cause a mutiny? And yes, Mutiny on the Bounty is actually based on a true story. There was a real Captain Bligh, and he did, they had to wait there on the island in Tahiti for the dormant period they were trying to bring back jackfruit, or sorry, breadfruit. I'll eat either one. um, they were trying to bring back breadfruit, and they had to wait till it was past the dormant period before they could transplant it and load it onto the ships, and then they had to keep watering it. So the men got used to being on the island. It was friendly, it was nice. They formed relationships. Some even were like married into the village, and then it was time to go back. And also, a lot of the water rations that would have been, for the men were gone toward keeping these watered. So there was a mutiny. And they put Captain Bligh in a rowboat or a small boat, and he actually made it back to England. He was picked up by another ship, and they went back after the crew. I'm not going to tell you the rest of it. There's many versions of this movie. I love the oldest one not the oldest one, but one of the older ones with Marlon Brando. You can just marvel at his acting chops in that movie. So, but breadfruit is just something that is just ubiquitous throughout the Caribbean now, because it was brought back from Tahiti, the Far East, and it's become a staple in a diet of the Caribbean. And it is also something, it has the most beautiful tropical leaves. When I used to work in the Caribbean, when I saw those leaves, I knew I was home in the tropics. And St. Vincent and Grenadines, they eat it boiled in soups or roasted and fried. My favorite way is roasted. Um, and you can roast it with some olive oil and some sea salt, and then you eat it with other things. But there's only a few countries that don't eat it. Dominican Republic, they don't really care for it, so they feed it to the pigs, lucky pigs. But there's ways to eat this. It's a starch. I don't know how healthy a starch it is, but it is tasty. And it's used as a filler also in drinks, cakes, and ice cream. So I love the artwork, just that four-leaf ancient leaf pattern and the fruit pattern. And this is growing over at the Fruit and Spice Park. The Boy Scout troop actually made huge wooden planters to plant the breadfruit in. It's in the Asian greenhouse. Visit it soon. So this is something, if you guys know me, you know how much I love New York Restoration Project, NYRP, for what they have done. Kudos to Bette Midler. And the only reason I would think of this as spooky or anything like that is because why haven't we done something like this? It's the Halloween uh, annual party that they have. It's a huge fundraiser, and the theme is In the Garden of Good and Evil, which was a fantastic movie. Also, set in New Orleans. You got to watch it. New Orleans is just full of gardens. So there's a fashion show that mimics some maybe spooky things like mushrooms and spiders' webs. And this link right here links to this year's Halloween uh, dinner fundraiser because it happened on the 25th. So this is a photo from some of the folks that are attended, and those monarchs are all sticking out of their hats and under the purple light. They just look gorgeous. And that'll segue us to monarchs and milkweed. This is something, yes, milkweed is toxic. It might not kill us, but it's going to really make us sick. You don't want to get the milky sap on you either. So wear gloves and watch your eyes if you're breaking parts of this plant. And there are some serious concerns about which kind of milkweed we grow. This is from the Institute for Regional Conservation. These are our native milkweeds, but you need to check each of these because this now covers 10 counties. My favorite milkweed that does grow here, Asclepias incarnata. It's pink and it's a swamp milkweed. I love my little aquatic edge plants. But it's an annual. So for folks who want to keep the monarchs here all year, it's not going to, the females aren't going to have the milkweed to lay their eggs on. And when they consume the toxins in the milkweed, that's what makes them very, very distasteful. It may not kill anything that tries to attack them, but it might give them a stomachache that is so bad they'll never go near it again. It could be the first and last time they try eating a caterpillar or one of the butterflies. But there's talk about using the non-native milkweed here, and it's higher in some of the compounds that make this toxic, and it might be too high for the health of the butterflies as well. Plus, they seem to have to eat more and more of it. It's not as nutritious as some of the natives. And are we preventing them from migrating where they need to be going? They need to be going to Mexico. And I mean, this is the Day of the Dead. That's November 1st, November 2nd, the same time frame as Halloween. And it's all tied together culturally. So a great place to look. This is the Smithsonian Museum Day of the Dead, National Museum of the American Latino. Just fascinating. And I used to go, oh my gosh, what are they showing those skulls for? It's creepy. I don't want to see that. And then when I learned more, I understood that it is actually a tribute to your past relatives and friends who have passed on. So you'll start to see the preparations for Dia los Muertos. I probably butchered that. Day of the Dead start, and it coincides with when the monarchs arrive. So there's no coincidence to that. Winged messengers, this is also part of that Smithsonian Institute. And here's some of the photos. They all fly all the monarchs from the East Coast fly into this coniferous forest, more to the southern part of Mexico. And you can see here that that area is also being logged. and the forest is having some issues um, with climate change getting too hot and different diseases. So there's great programs out there to try to replant and keep this going. There's lots of things we need to do to keep this phenomena of mass migration alive and thriving. And one would be what we plant in our own landscapes, our backyards. That's the name of this series, to feed for nectar and to act as a larval host and not interfere with the tendency to migrate. But it's believed that our South Florida monarchs no longer migrate. So that's another story. We have lots of information and presentations on that. Get in touch with us if you want to know more, and we'll probably pick that to do for one of our monthly webinars. So here they are, just truckloads of these coniferous pines or firs. And when they get there, I forgot to show you, it's a little cool. So they all just hover on the leaves and they shiver, and that keeps them warm. And as it gets warmer, they start to emerge and use the nectar resources. So it is hard work to restore anything. I spent yesterday at Pine Rockland Working Group Symposium trying to restore pine rocklands or any habitat that we lose is extremely difficult to bring back. So this is hands and knees planting, but there's also the hard work of clearing out any invasives that may have filled in. That's as big a problem as anything these days. So we want to do things in our backyards that help support these niche habitats that are so critical. There's 23 species of insects and butterflies and lizards. Well, butterflies are insects that live in pine rocklands. So I love this. You see marigolds. Why do you see so many marigolds? It is said that the fragrance of marigolds pulls the souls from their graves to just be around you in the family home. Don't be freaked out, be at peace. I have a story, but I won't tell it now, about a butterfly that is a message from beyond. So I will tell it to you if you ask me, because I've lost a family member and that butterfly appeared days afterwards, as if to say, it's okay, I'm here and I'll always be with you. And that is the thought behind this, that we honor those, that we not forget them. We not be afraid of them, we be at peace with them. And some people like the smell of marigolds. I do, but some people are like, oh, get it away from me. But also, just real quick, there are edible marigolds, but check with us first which ones are edible. So what's the spookiest plants out there? I think the spookiest plants are the ones that are mistreated, scraped down. How am I supposed to have any healthy grass there? It's either going to die off in dry season or make mud when it rains. And allowing these vines to grow on, that's a gumbo limbo. And it was overshadowed by a giant invasive tree. And they came in and they decided we need to take the size of these down. So they basically hat wrapped it. So now for sure things are going to fly when there's a hurricane. And there's also research, I learned this from James Duncan from EEL, that allowing these heavy, thick philodendron vines to grow on trees just creates more wind that can catch to break it or send it sailing into the environment. And then we all know there's plants that are ghosted, that they're gone. We didn't take care of them. We didn't leave a space for them. So maybe a little bit of a serious note, but I hope you guys had fun. And I hope you guys have some questions. So let's see. Let's look
Yes,
at.
we do have some questions. Before we get into questions, while we got everyone here, I really would just want to, while you were talking, I was actually reminded of a book that I was, made to read while I was at UF in my
Oh,
Plants
your
and Human
face,
Affairs
Dalton. I want to
classes.
see it.
Yeah, it's an awesome book called the Demons in Eden. So it's just a really cool book about plant biodiversity
Goodness.
and kind of how it relates to this talk here. So that's my recommended read for this presentation. It's an awesome little book, and let's get to the questions.
Dalton, before we do,
Yeah.
yesterday at the end of the Pine Rockland, when we were all just open sharing ideas, um, they talked about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, A River of Grass, and they also talked about End of Eden, and I wrote it down. So
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to be reading that. You just gave me
Oh,
goosebumps.
I'll bring the book. I actually have one at my
Oh,
house, so don't. Yeah, I'll bring it
great,
for you. No
great,
worries.
great.
And
Question.
so, all right, go ahead.
Um, we could stop share. You guys want to see faces?
All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
let's see.
So the
Let's
first question we got from Jason Neves when you were showing the Titan Arum, I believe it's the same flower, but he asked, isn't the corpse flower also one of the largest flowers in the world?
Yes, yes. It is the largest.
Yeah,
That
that's what.
I'm sorry, it was in the information. And it if you guys want to know more, you can just follow those links. I'll be happy. You can email us. My email was on the first slide, or it's bmcadam@UFL. So we can put it in the chat and Dalton can put his in, and we'll turn this into a PDF and share it with you so you can explore further. Because I always have a blast when I do these things. I'm like in it for days. Guess what I just found out? Check this out. Dalton's my buddy for that. So,
Definitely. All
yeah.
right, so I just posted both of our emails down there in the chat if you guys have any specific questions or
Perfect.
anything like that. We got a comment from Wayne Clark who says that you can actually purchase ackee from multiple Jamaican restaurants here in South Florida. So if you want to save some money on that
Fresh,
Jamaican vacation,
fresh ackee. I've also seen it canned.
oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm not, how long has it been in the can? But you could just eat at that Jamaican restaurant. How about that? Have
There you
that
go.
experience.
You're getting some Marlon Brando love.
Explore your,
Let's see what else we got.
coronary culinary explanation. Oh, somebody bought a black bat
Yeah,
plant.
that's one of our master gardeners, I believe. Innovi, who I
Ooh.
believe also just got an awesome job. Innovi on that. They just got recognized for the best demonstration garden in the entire state of Florida for UF IFAS. So that's
Oh,
pretty awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, of course. Next
Yes.
question. What is the best type of milkweed to grow in the yard for butterflies? Daniela Quintana wanted to know.
Okay, so if we went back to that slide, it's not going to be something that's perennial. The milkweed that we plant right now is a Mexican variety of the Asclepias family, and we want to plant one of our native milkweeds. What happens is the Mexican milkweed is tropical, so it doesn't ever die back. And we have a disease called OE. It's an obligate parasite. You need a microscope to see it, and it can persist on that plant, infest the caterpillars, and then when it pupates and tries to emerge as an adult, it's deformed. There's a website. There is all sorts of talk about this, about maybe we shouldn't be trying to attract monarchs. Should we cut it back? We've had various uh, experts weigh in on this, including Dr. Jarrett Daniels from the Daniels Lab at the Florida Museum, did a special presentation. I'm a member of Miami Blue, North American Lepidoptera Association, and we have presentations online. By the way, if you want to become a total butterfly geek, go to miamiblue.org, real simple. And our quarterly meeting is this Sunday at John Pennycamp, 1 to 4, I think, or 1 to 3. And we're going to have a talk about efforts to restore the Schaus swallowtail back. It's critically endangered. So we talk about, it's just all butterfly stuff, and it's
Yes.
butterfly plants.
Um,
So I love the
oh,
one
sorry.
that I picked, Asclepias incarnata,
Mhm.
or swamp milkweed. It grows here. Fairchild, Natives for Nature, is had permission to collect seeds. It's trying to grow some out to share more of these. Uh, uh, that they can share. I see sign challenge accepted on watching the movie alone. Don't do it. So anyhow, they're trying to grow these out so they can share them with local nurseries. So you will be able to buy it when in the springtime, but know that it's going to die off when we get into the dry season, and that will prevent that parasite from persisting. So, there's a lot of science that goes into this. And by the way, we've lost a butterfly. Gone again, the Miami blue. But maybe we'll have some luck, like the Atala butterfly. We'll be able to find it again and look at how better we can help restore this. So I'm going to write a blog on that one. Stay tuned.
So, real quick, if you guys are interested, we do have another one of these Lunch and Learn webinars coming up in November. I just posted the link for that for you guys to register, learn all kinds of edibles and things like that to plant at this time of year. One of the main points where people go wrong when they're trying to do an edible garden is they're planting the wrong things at the wrong time of year. So if you're planting the cultivars that are best suited to grow in our environment at the time of year when they're best suited to grow, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. So we're going to be discussing that in November. I also encourage you guys to look up the Miami-Dade County Extension YouTube channel. And we've got all kinds of awesome videos on gardening for butterflies, gardening for birds, gardening for bees, herb gardening, all kinds of things, all kinds of free resources. And of course, you can always shoot me and Barbara an email, and we'd be more than happy to send you a plethora of resources. As for our teachers in the audience, I saw Miss Vaccaro there in the audience as a teacher. We actually do offer free classes, not only to schools, but also to businesses. So if you would like to have your employees or your students trained, we offer free classes. Go ahead and shoot us an email and we'll send you a presentation list, and we'd be more than happy to set that up.
Okay, I see some awesome comments, and let's see, Rebecca, I see you weren't really a plant person, but that's exactly what this presentation was designed to do. Just open up a little intriguing information. And, this is a plant. It might not be something we want to grow here. I'm going to check it out, but just think of like an ant's eye view of all the little details and patterns and what living things are visiting these. Plants are the backbone of the planet. Actually, dirt is the basis of all life, and fungi, as Dalton would share with us. So maybe Invasion of the Pod People is another good one we should have put in there. It's a fungi. So I hope you guys had fun. Explore it. Don't be scared. I don't like those slasher. I like thrillers and chillers. So
Me too.
have some fun. Be safe, and we're here to answer any of your questions. So
and happy Halloween.
yeah. Okay. Maybe eat some veggies instead of candy. All right.
All right, guys, thank you
I'm
for
gonna
coming.
sign
This
off, guys.
presentation
Thank you.
will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you guys want to rewatch it, send it to some friends. And once again, while you're there, check it out on our YouTube. Be sure to watch our other amazing webinars and recorded presentations. Thank you guys so much.